Hi, my name's Karen Hobson. I've been working here at Garland for over 31 years, and today we're going to talk a bit about hydrangeas, which are one of the most gorgeous shrubs of summer. A lot of people, when they think of hydrangeas, think of the mophead hydrangea, which have these big round flowers, and that is one type of hydrangea, but there's actually quite a few kinds that you can grow. So the most popular by far, I think, are still the mopheads, and they come in a wide range of colors and sizes. They can be beautiful shades of pink. This is one called Paris that gets a fairly good size. There are some that have beautiful blue flowers. This is one called Bloomstruck, which is a very nice dwarf one with repeat blooming. This is another new one that is very popular with bronze foliage and kind of an interesting pink flower, and it's called Miss Sayori, which is another feature to have with that interesting foliage. In addition to the mopheads, there are some that are flat top flowers, and those are called lace caps. Lace caps have a ring of large flowers on the outer edge and tiny little star-like flowers in the center. They are available in white, pink, or blue, just like the mopheads. This is a pink one that's called Taub, and this is a blue one which is called Outer Banks. The one thing about all of these hydrangeas is that you can change the color, so they may not always stay the color you think they are, and we'll have a segment on how you can accomplish the color you like later in this series. So all of these are ones that need afternoon shade or shade. They burn if they have any hot afternoon sun. So all of these like the same kind of conditions. They are very intolerant of burning hot sun, and they need a very adequate supply of water, especially their first few summers. The white ones are always going to stay white, but the blue and the pink are ones that you'll be able to change colors on. In addition to that type, there are some that are called a panicle hydrangea, and they have big cone-shaped flowers, and these are very, very hardy. These would grow even in Minnesota. They're hardy at about -30 degrees, and these generally have a flower that starts green. It usually turns white afterwards, and then it ages to lovely pink shades. This particular one is a variety called Pinky Winky. There are others that are more lime green, like Limelight or Little Lime, and they can vary in size from Bobo, which is only about 3 feet tall, to Limelight that'll get about 10 feet tall. So there's a lot of sizes in these available. These are a lot more tolerant of sun. They don't have to have full sun, but they will take everything from full sun to almost full shade. They get a little leggy if they're in too heavy a shade, but anything from part sun to full sun is fine. The more sun they're in, the more water they will need, but otherwise they're very tolerant of a wide range of conditions. One other type of hydrangea that also has a somewhat cone-shaped flower is the oak leaf hydrangea. These have, again, cone-shaped flowers that start out green, turn white, and then they'll age to beautiful shades of pink. The interesting thing about this one is the foliage on this one is the shape of oak leaves. And this foliage will turn the most extraordinary deep, rich red color in the fall, and holds that fall color well into January most years, unless you have an extremely hard freeze. So the fall color on this one is one of its greatest attributes. Some of the mopheads will get some good fall color. The panicle ones only turn yellow, but this one is the gem for fall color. So all of these are very easy to grow. They like rich soil, so adding compost to your soil is a good idea. They all like adequate water, but for sun, you'd need to stick to either the panicle ones or also oak leaf ones, which will also take some afternoon sun or all the way to shade. The oak leaf and the panicle one will actually flower more heavily if they have more sun, but they do need more water in that kind of situation. We'd love to show you the huge selection that we have at Garland. There are so many to choose from, and there's very few plants that give you quite a show for summer as these. like to talk to you a little bit about the care of hydrangeas. Most of them are very low maintenance as long as they have enough water, but they do need pruning once a year, and I'd like to talk to you about the differences of pruning for each different type. All of the mop heads are going to have flowers that are set the fall before, so you want to actually prune these after they're done blooming, and that can be any time from late winter to early spring. And where you're going to prune to is going to be below last year's flowers to the largest bud that you can get to, and it's hard to see it at this point, but they will set very large buds in this region by late summer or fall, and that's where you're going to prune to when these flowers are all brown in the winter. So you can do it anytime from, I usually do mine by January or February just because I don't like to see the brown flowers at that point, but they look fairly attractive all winter, so you don't have to rush about doing it. Anytime in that period is fine. If you prune them heavier than that, you're cutting off the first flowers for the following year. And that is true of the mop heads and the lace caps. When it comes to the panicle hydrangeas, those only bloom on new growth, and so these are ones that you can prune any time in winter all the way until early spring, as far down as you'd like to go. So they are very tolerant of heavy pruning, and it's not going to affect the bloom at all, no matter how far you cut them back. So you can prune them to shape, and it's a good idea usually to keep them denser by pruning them fairly hard in winter, so you get a much fuller, more heavily branched shrub the next year. If you want larger flowers, then having less branches is going to make bigger flowers, but those can also flop. So having a well-branched one will have more flowers, but not as likely to snap in a hard wind. The same is true of the oak leaf hydrangeas. Again, they only bloom on new growth, and so those, after they get brown and look unattractive, you can prune these flowers off at any time and just shape the shrub how you'd like it, and it's not going to affect your next year's bloom in any way whatsoever. Hopefully that clears up any questions on pruning. It's always a scary one for people, but all you have to do is clean them up once a year, and they're pretty easy from the rest of that point on. A lot of people have a strong wish for a hydrangea in a particular color, and so that is one of the most unusual things about this plant, is that you can change the color from this pink to a very rich blue if you choose to change the pH so that that color will appear. So it is possible to change a pink one to deep blue or to purple, or leave it pink, depending on how acidic the soil is. You can change that to make it bluer by using a soil acidifier. This is actually a sulfur product, and it's organic, and you can use this at a rate of 1 1/4 cups for a new one, or 2 1/2 cups for an established hydrangea, and you would just spread this around the drip line of the plant, scratch it into the soil, and water it in. The best time to do this is spring, and if it's not blue enough for you at that point, then you could do it again that fall. So it's just a gradual process to change pH, and it is something that you can make them incredibly blue if you get the pH to be in the 4 to 5 range, or you can get them to about purple if you get them in the high 5s to 6, or you can get them to pink if you get above 6.5 on your pH. If you'd like them to be very pink, you could add limestone. Dolomitic limestone will make a hydrangea extremely pink. So if you want to make sure it stays pink and you have acid soil, just lime it once a year. You would use on this one about several handfuls around the drip line of the plant, scratch it in the soil, water it in, and it will be pink for the next few years. Anytime it gets different than the color you want, you can repeat that procedure. The white ones never change color. They are always going to be white. But many of the lace caps and mop heads can be changed to any color you want. The ones that do not change color also include the oak leaf or the panicle hydrangeas. They are always going to be white, aging to pink, and never will turn blue no matter what you do. If you have any questions about hydrangeas or want to see our wonderful selection, just come out to Garland Nursery and we'd be happy to show you these wonderful plants.